But yeah, no, quote Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan to get punched in the face. Greg Hardy had a plan. He had this outlook of where this thing was taking him. He looked past me, and he didn't give me any credit. He didn't. The motherfucker barely knew my name, so that was his mistake.
Guys, how's it going? It's Joseph from the Heretic Chronicles, and today I am joined with a juggernaut. By far my biggest guest, coming off the biggest win of his career. Introduce yourself, my friend.
Joshua Watson.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, man, let's jump into it. So, tell everybody, man, like, what was your upbringing? Where are you from? You know,
I grew up in Maine. I live in Vegas now, but I grew up in the country of Maine, being pretty bored and reliant on sports.
yes, sir. So, growing up, what sports did you play? I heard you got into a lot of fights playing football. So if you can, dive into that.
Yeah. Football was my number one. Yeah, it wasn't until I got to, I don't know, later into my high school and definitely into my college where I was throwing hands almost every single game. Um, like one game in high school, I tried to bite a kid's finger off and stuck his hand in my mouth. There's just, I don't know. Always when it comes to football, like I'm always just really, really, really like tough, go, 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 and I don't know, like it's just always been my mentality when it comes to sports is go. That's why it was hard to do like track. Like I did track, like in high school, I was always a three-sport athlete. I started off actually playing basketball well, obviously football, but basketball, then track, and then basketball was didn't really suit me, so I did wrestling for 1 year, and then yeah, just I've done. And growing up, obviously being from the country, you just have to play baseball. It's kind
Yeah.
of like I think it's mandatory. But baseball was just way too slow paced for me. It didn't suit me well.
Yeah, man, I played baseball for a bit. I was outfielder, so you know how that goes. Pretty slow pace, like you said.
Yeah, definitely.
So how was it, knocking dudes out with their helmets still on, man? How do you have that power? Where does it come from?
That I don't even know. Like yeah, you're talking about. I had a game we were playing Northeastern, and it's cool because my college roommate is actually out here right now, and we were hanging out 2 nights ago, and it was him and I, and he was blocking the defensive tackle, and I had nobody to block, so I kind of came up through the middle to clear up, and I earholed him, knocked him unconscious on the field. Then we just kind of like looked at each other, shrugged our shoulders, and we both just ran in separate directions and went and got more blocks. And it was great because didn't get caught on that one. A lot of games you get caught on this shit, but that one we didn't get flagged on. And I don't know, like I guess always have had, like people would always give me shit too. They're like, why are you punching people with their helmet on? I'm like, I don't know, it doesn't really bother me. And, to be perfectly honest, I don't really do a whole lot of hand conditioning
Mm.
with the whole bare knuckle. Whereas, like I don't know, I work full time. Like I have to go to do my job. I don't have all this extra downtime, or should I say extra time for training. And I think the people that are really able to dive in on all those extra facets of the training are the ones who aren't working multiple days a week and they have that downtime. But I don't have time to sit around and just punch a board or, allow my hands to be tired from digging into a bucket of rice for a few hours. Like I just, excuse me. It sucks that having this, this kind of this fight happen and essentially catapult my career at the end of my career. Like, man, if I could have done this when I was 30, my ass wouldn't be working. This one fight right here would have been like, cool. Whatever job I had, I'm like, look, I quit. I'm going like this is enough of a, wave for me to ride on with incoming sponsorships and potential fights and, 10 more years of, potentially fighting. I would be able to do that.
Yeah.
But it's at the end of my story. So like I can't walk away from my job. I'm a bartender, I'm a bar manager. Like I can't like walk away and be like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll come back next year after I have like one or two more fights. It's not just gonna be sitting there for me. I'm in Vegas. Like they need bartenders.
So I'm pretty sure that this is a long question. I mean, I'm sorry, a long answer, but if you can, man, dive into your take me on your fighting journey. Like, where did you start fighting and how did you wind up in BKFC?
Well, I started training 2006. It was funny. I was coaching high school football, and it was around the time when I want to say it was like 2005 when the light heavyweight tryouts for Tough were in Boston, and I had a few kids on the team were all like, "You should go down there and try out," and I'm like, "Nah, I don't train." I'm like,
Mm,
I'm not naive enough to think that. They're like, "No, like even without you training, you can go down there and fuck up almost everybody." And I'm like, "Cool, appreciate it, guys." And it was weird, but that little thing of people believing in me started the snowball effect. My old coach, Jay Jack, he moved to town, opened up a gym when I was working nights. And I told him, if he starts doing day classes, I'll join in. It went on for a few months. And then he was a bouncer. I saw him out and he's like, hey, we're going to start doing Tuesday, Thursday day classes next week. So the very next week on Tuesday, I went in, signed up, started doing jujitsu, started doing striking. Like as we kind of said, I grew up
yeah.
throwing hands. Well, actually, let me back it up even a little bit more than that. When I was little, my mom, when I was like 10, my mom let me get 2 pair of boxing gloves.
Mm,
I was always boxing people. Me and my friends were always beating the fuck out of each other. And then I lost those ones when I moved back to Maine. Middle school time, I got 2 pair of gloves. Me and my friends were always fighting. I'd always bring them out after like a good, like during the off season of football. We'd just be in the weight room and we'd have a little bit extra time. And I'd take some of the younger kids and freshmen and sophomores and be like, cool, you guys are fighting each other. And just kind of like pin them on each other and just make them like get tough. Like just going in the backyard and boxing makes you
mm,
tough.
mm.
Um, so that was that. And then like it's funny because that even leads into when I was a senior, um, I would go and visit the University of Maine where I ended up playing football.
Yeah.
Because I had friends on the team. I'd go up there and I'd bring my boxing gloves and I would fight the kids that were on the team already in the dorms. So it's like you couldn't even, there was no lateral movement. It was straight forward, straight backwards. It was just a hallway. And they had me box pretty much everybody on the team. And when I was going in as a freshman, there was a kid. Sorry, dogs.
Dude, it's
There was a,
perfectly fine. It's fine.
there was a kid who had my football number, and I'm like, "Hey, Mark, like, how set are you on that number?" And he's like, "Well, I've had it for the 2 years I've been here." And I'm like, "Cool, I'll fight you for it." He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I'll fight you for it. Like, I want that number. Like, we can fight
Yeah.
and when it takes it."
That's savage.
And And then like a week later, he's like, "Oh, so and so is transferring, and their number's gonna open up, and that was my high school number, so you can have it." I'm like, "Cool." A few weeks later was my senior bowl, and there was a kid EJ that played from another town in Maine. I've known him for years,
Yeah.
and we were like we weren't even. It was like the first day we were together for practice. I'm like, EJ, what number are you gonna have? And he's like, well, 64. And I'm like, well, I'm 64. We both can't have it. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, let's fight for it. And he's like, you can just have it. And I'm like, cool. Like, I'll take it. Like, and I'm not saying it in a way of like being a bully.
No,
Like,
no.
give it to me or I'll kick your ass. It's like, okay, cool. Let's fight over it, and winner keeps it. So yeah, like, sorry, I kind of
No, it's
Tarantino'd it.
fine, man.
I went into the story, then I backed out of it. So like that was my like having fun growing up boxing and like just always wanting to be in contact. So then, I started training. Um, we, I was, it was early. Like I hadn't even been there for a full year yet. My coach was like, "Hey, there's a tournament coming up. You really should do it." So I was like, "All right, whatever." So I did a jiu-jitsu tournament. I won my division.
Yep.
And he's like, "Hey, you perform very well under pressure." He's like, "This was kind of a test for you, for me." And I'm like, "Cool, for what?" And he goes, "Massachusetts is going to have the first amateur card on the East Coast. What do you think about fighting?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, what do you
Sign
think
me
I'm
up.
doing this for? What do you think I'm doing this for? Like, so I can fight." So I was the first person that my gym allowed fight without a blue belt. That was like a kind of said slash unsaid rule, but like in our gym, it's like you need to focus on on jiu-jitsu. You need to go to the gym for like 2 years, get your blue belt before you even think about trying to fight. Mainly because like the time it takes to focus on it. So I was the first person he allowed, and I think it's mainly because of I was the first person he had that had out other abilities other than just learning jiu-jitsu. I was the one guy coming from his school that wasn't a jiu-jitsu guy, even though my jiu-jitsu is great. I'm not gonna dog on that, but it just wasn't my first taste. Like I'll go out there and I'm gonna swing. We're gonna fight. Like if we end up on the ground, cool. I like being on the ground too. So that was that. Then went through MMA for
Mm.
years. I stretched my MMA career from 2007 all the way to 2016 or 2017. It was a good 10 years. Um, almost made the UFC. It was an alternate on the Ultimate Fighter.
Fighter, yep, correct.
And then was making my push for making 185 pounds,
That
which I
must have
know
been
is
tough. That must have been
no,
tough.
no, it
Oh,
really wasn't. I was walking at like 220,
mm.
and we had a fight signed up for 205. Promoter hit me up and was like, "Hey, he wants it smaller because they didn't want me to have the advantage." Tried to get me to go 195. I said 200. That's the lowest fight weight I've ever had was 197. And the kid who wanted me smaller missed weight.
That's crazy. That's
Um, had that one, but that was a crazy ass fight. It was cool as hell. And then um came back from that fight. It was only like a minute 12. Only like cut my knuckle a little bit. That was it.
mm.
I was like, cool, let's go. Because I guess like 2-3 weeks before that fight, Joe Silva had contacted my coach out here in Vegas and asked, like, had I made 85 yet? He was like, no, we're working on it. We're going to 200, 195, just kind of like keep going lower, lower, lower till we get there. Smart.
Yeah.
And he's like, cool. He's like, he fights 185 and wins contract. Like, no questions asked, just done. So that was like my goal. I had that one fight where I was 197, come back to town, and wife cheating, a whole bunch of shit, and basically went on the next 6 years of fighting for custody for my son
Mm.
versus fighting, realistically.
Yeah. The real life fights, sometimes, yeah, man. Well, you're
You
a
know, like,
warrior. You're a
and I was
warrior
like,
in some, oh, sorry.
no, it's cool, but like it was like different times when like I would fight with I'd still go to the gym, and I'm at like 230 ish, and I'm training with Tom Lawler, Vinny Megalesh, um, let's see here, Khalil, Corey Hendrick. Like there's like all these 205ers
Holy
that are,
crap. Some savages, man. Khalil
yeah, I mean,
Roundtree.
that are always that are in the UFC, that are contracted in UFC. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm beating their asses, but I'm even. even. I'm winning some, they're winning some, like we're even. And there was like so many times when the conversation happened, like, how the fuck didn't you make it? Like, you're holding your own with us and like having better days than us. And it's like, and you like, how didn't you make it? I'm like, fucking life, you know?
Yeah. Which is very, I'm sure, very relatable to a lot of other people as well, man, when they hear basically your story. You listen to this, man. I'm on my phone one day, right? I'm on Instagram and I'm scrolling and I see BKFC posted this video. It's this big brolic guy with tattoos on the back of his head, and he hits this dude with a 1-2, and the guy just falls into the ropes, and then the ref comes in and does the whatever standing 10 or standing 8 count. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is that's when I first found out about you, and then bro, right after that they announced the Greg Hardy fight. So seeing how everything had played out in your life and your career and this moment that you're at now, man, like, take me, like, what was that experience like, getting the call, getting through the fight, here we are talking now, like, just break down that experience, man.
I mean, getting that call, it was like, I mean, when I got the call, I didn't go, yes, we're doing this. Like, I took my time. I was trying to figure it out. I talked to my coach and I was like, look, my coach, he breaks down video. He is like a nerd when it comes to
Yeah.
like breaking down film and just seeing like, oh, okay, like every fourth step he steps. It's like, how do you see that shit?
Yeah.
So, and he actually used to coach Rockman. So like it was kind of cool because he even knows how he works. And so he went down, broke down film. And I asked him, I'm like, is this winnable for me? Like, if it's flat out not winnable, like, it's not no reason for me to go in there and get beat and essentially be the person that everybody expected me to be.
Yeah, you were basically a stepping stone, and that's the complete opposite of what happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I was like, what, we got this? And he was like, yeah, man. He's like, if we can do what we talk about and, we work on this, he's like, we got this. I'm like, all right, cool. So I went into it, fully confident with my coach's, blessing and his game plan. And as it went on, I just got more and more and more. Like each time, that's also how it works too. Like every time I get into the thing, I'm like, oh, this isn't really working. And 5 weeks out, and it's like by the week, 2 weeks out, you're like, oh yeah, we're on. Like I was, super confident, and the only time that I ever had any doubt in my mind, and I mean, have you ever fought?
No, not in
Okay.
a cage, or no, not in a cage or a ring, no.
The only time I ever had doubt, which was the perfect time to have doubt, was when I was warming up and getting ready to go out. Because that's the time when you're actually supposed to get scared. That's the time when you're supposed to be like, "Fuck, this is about to happen." Because if you don't have that, then it's like you're almost too careless, and also you're not going to have that like adrenaline, that push through, because you need to be scared. You have to be a little bit terrified before you go out there, because if you don't, your body won't respond right to that fight or flight.
Yeah, the only thing that I can say that I've been in that's similar is like when I was training, I was basically a shoot boxing gym, so we'd have like Shark Tank. I'm sure you're pretty much familiar with that.
Yep.
That's the only thing that I can even say, because like that shit is like, 60 seconds of just like dog fighting, and your
Yep.
coaches are willing to, they want you to put the pressure on the fighter. You're basically, let's say a guy's amateur fight coming up, they want you to give them the good solid rounds. So I basically have to go in there and put it on him. And,
Yep.
I'm not particularly, used to doing that to, let's say, a teammate or, someone that I would call my friend. But, when you're training, that's just, that's how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, when you're training, you want to be pushed. You want to be
Yeah. Yeah.
there. And that's the hard part. Like I got predominantly one main training partner, my buddy George, who's had a handful of pro fights, and like getting ready for McElroy, I broke his nose like
Mm.
with 3 weeks out. I'm like, fuck, we have to like change it up and like change how we're training. I had to, call on a few other people, and I ended up having sparring a little bit with D-Rod from in the UFC. He
That's
came
cool,
in.
man.
And yeah, I mean, like, and that's the cool part too, is like being out here in Vegas, I get to work with a shit ton of people. I've been in a camp for Francis Nagano.
Yep.
I used to get the text messages early in the morning from Forrest Griffin being like, be to the gym at 10. Okay. Like he knew I worked nights. I didn't have shit going on during the day. And it's like, and that was when I was still married and stuff. I'm like, hey, look, I'm going to the gym. Like,
Yeah.
Forrest is going to beat the fuck out of me, but let's do this.
Yeah. Hell yeah. All right, man. So you knock out Greg Hardy, biggest win of your career. You said that you only have one fight left. Is there any? Yeah, you keep saying that, which for some reason in my mind and in my heart, I still feel like maybe you got like two left. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's just funny because like in the direction of where the trajectory of what Hardy is putting on my plate now, yeah, it's not really going to be my last fight. It's funny. At the end of the night, we were doing the press conferences, and some of the right interviewers from New England, and they know that they want to see me fight back home. And I think the first question someone asked Dave Feldman was, "So, you gonna get Josh's fight in New England?" And it was funny because I was sitting way in the back, and I heard my name come up, and I just like came right up and was just like peering in like over the shoulder of one of the writers, like, "Yeah, Dave, what's up?" And he's like, "No, no time soon." He's like, "We have other things in plan for Josh. We got bigger and better plans." And he knows it. He knows, and sadly, I think I showed my cards. He knows that I want to end my career in New England or Vegas. Therefore, I don't think he's going to allow me to fight in either location until he's done using me for what he needs me for. So, you know, like going into the McElroy fight, I was like, this might be my last fight. As the training was going on, I was like, no, I'm pretty fucking dialed in. Like, I don't kind of want to stop. Like, I was for McElroy, I was about 4 weeks out, and I felt sharper than I was for my Etchison fight. This fight, I might not have felt sharper, but I was about 3 weeks out, and I already had better conditioning than I did for my McElroy fight. So each time I'm doing this, hold on 1 second.
Okay, you're
Stop.
fine. You're
hey,
fine.
Stop. Problem with them 4 dogs. They always like to fight.
Yeah.
So going into this fight, I was already conditioning wise way better than I was previous 2 fights. So like each time I get to that point where I'm like, my body's breaking down, you know, like there's also that whole thing of like my body's breaking down, but I'm also getting better. I'm getting better as a fighter. I'm getting better in conditioning. I just started this time around going to Project Wellbeing, which is the craziest, best training facility out here in Las Vegas. It's unbelievable. And going with that has made my conditioning go up through the roof. Not to mention it has so much recovery things there. So I get to beat the shit out of myself and also take part in like all the recovery and making myself better in the process. So I don't know, man. Two sounds good. I mean, whatever the next fight's going to be, this big fight that they want me to have, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, win or lose. I'm like, I win this one. People already talking like that's like top 5. That's like contendership. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I really don't give a shit about some sort of title run. Like, I'm too old for a title run. Like I said earlier, like I can't just put my job on pause and be like, hey, I'll be back. I fucking now like I lost my district manager. I'm sorry, I lost my general manager and my assistant general manager. So like I'm literally doing everything at my bar
Yeah,
right
so
now.
you're winging it on all on your own basically.
Now, right, exactly. So like I can't just tell them, sorry guys, like a further fuck you. Like so I have to still work. I got to pay my bills. So yeah, I'm not making no like crazy ass title run. I'm not, you know, I'm just what I think would be cool because apparently, or the way it seems, is that they like me at this super heavyweight because there isn't very many people at super heavyweight. They always keep, you know, everybody on social media is talking about, well, they were talking about Greg Hardy, but they're also, Ben Rothwell and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
these these dudes are not making 265. It's not going to happen. And not because they don't have the ability to, but they had the ability to for years, or at least for Rothwell for several years. But the difference in boxing training versus MMA training is much, much harder. You have grueling ass practices where you're soaked, and it's an hour and a half long, and you're just going. An hour and a half of grappling.
It's totally different than stand up. Yeah, for sure. 1000%.
So
Yeah.
you have to hit mitts for like 4 fucking hours to burn the same calories.
Or when you're
You
on the
know,
ground, dude, I had one time I was rolling this guy who was on top of me, a big dude, and he just like a huge glob of spit came out of his mouth and got in my mouth. And I was like, oh, dude, I was like, and we still got, whatever, 4 more rounds left to go. I was like, just training on the ground, jujitsu, all that it's grueling for
right.
sure.
And I mean, it's like, so like your calorie output is way, 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 way different. So like, could he do it? Sure, if he wasn't training for a boxing match. Especially, again, we're talking 5 2-minute rounds. And let's not be stupid. We're not going the third fucking round.
No.
We're not like, this is my first, this is in 12. What I've had 15 fights total. The third time I've been into the second round. I've never been to decision. And I mean, and we're talking back when it was 5-minute rounds and stuff like that. Like, so in 2-minute rounds, we're not going the distance. So that the output of training isn't the same. So that being said, I feel that they should introduce a super heavyweight title because they want to sit here and posterize Ben Rothwell. Well, he's not making 265.
Well, you're definitely going to give Dave Feldman a lot of questions that he's going to need to answer because that's a really good idea that you just proposed. I really think so.
And I mean, like, it's more titles just simply mean more events. More titles mean more divisions, more fighters, more just everything in general. And then you have the ability to have multi weight class champions, more headlines, stuff like that, So I don't know. I mean, I just say that I just foresee the only way that I'm making some sort of title run is if that falls on the table,
Listen, man, I think that Greg Hardy fight was like an accumulation of like your career. The first round, get your eye poked. That goes in with like in your personal life struggles of things that you've been through. You could barely fucking see. You got 3 Greg Hardys flying at you. You make it through the first round after it was a slugfest. And then, basically the beginning of the second round, you come out there and absolutely flatline him. So I feel like that has primed you for, it's basically, dude, I feel like you probably have your phone's probably been blowing up. You got me blowing up your phone. So listen, man, I think that the future looks bright, even though you said you only got 1 fight left. I think you might have more than just 1. And yeah, exactly 2, maybe 3. We'll see what happens. But listen, man, it was a pleasure talking to you. Send us off on a good note, man.
You can't throw that at me. You gotta like tell me that one before you and be like, hey, come up with a good exit line. I'm not good at thinking on my feet. At the end of the day, I don't know if this is actually his quote because the internet makes up. Like they'll throw any single quote and they'll be like, oh, so and so said it. But yeah, no, quote Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan to get punched in the face. Greg Hardy had a plan. He had this outlook of where this thing was taking him, and he looked past me, and he didn't give me any credit. He didn't. The motherfucker barely knew my name, so that was his mistake.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. He slept on you and paid the price. Josh, thank you, man.